Imagine waking up every day surrounded by concrete, not just buildings, but entire walls of uniform gray stretching in every direction. The air is thick with smog. Traffic moves at the pace of a snail. This isn't a scene from a dystopian movie. It's everyday life for millions of people across the globe. We like to think of cities as symbols of progress, hubs of innovation, opportunity, and culture. But the truth is, some of them have morphed into sprawling urban nightmares. Overbuilt, overcrowded, overpolluted. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what we'll call urban hell. Places where ambition, planning failures, and inequality collide. From horizontal skyscrapers to ghost towns full of abandoned castles, from copy-paste suburbs to toxic industrial wastelands. This is a journey through some of the most bizarre and unsettling examples of city living gone off the rails. Let's start in eastern Siberia, in a town called Mirny. Picture a giant hole, nearly a mile wide and deeper than the Empire State Building is tall. This isn't a sci-fi crater, it's the Mir Mine, one of the world's largest diamond excavations. The entire town was built around it, sustained by the gems pulled from its depths. At its peak, it churned out millions of carats a year. But here's the catch. Winters dip below -40 degrees, and the nearest major city is hundreds of miles away. Helicopters can't even fly over the mine because the air currents it creates are too dangerous. It's not just a town. It's a frozen, isolated reminder of how fragile a community becomes when it revolves around a single resource. Now jump to St. Petersburg, Russia, a place where over 18,000 people live in a single building. Locals call it the human anthill. Imagine a structure with 35 entrances, 25 floors, and nearly 4,000 apartments. The ground level is packed with shops, salons, and even a kindergarten. On paper, it's a self-contained utopia. In reality, it feels more like a machine than a neighborhood. Noise, lack of privacy, and strained services make it hard to call it home. It's efficient, sure, but at what cost? And then there's Chongqing, China, a city that didn't just grow, it exploded upward and outward in every direction. This place is so packed, trains literally pass through apartment buildings. Highways spiral over rooftops. You can fuel up at a gas station 5 stories in the air. They call it the 5D city, and honestly, it lives up to the name. Every layer of the city is stacked on top of another, like a giant game of Jenga. It's an architectural marvel, but it's also a maze. A beautifully chaotic one. These megastructures aren't just feats of engineering. They're responses to pressure, space, population, and ambition, pushing cities to stretch their limits. Sometimes upward, sometimes sideways, but always, relentlessly more. Now let's head to Texas, where the American dream of owning a home is alive and well. At least in the form of endless rows of brick houses that all look exactly the same. Drive through some of these suburbs and you'll feel like you're stuck in a loop. Every street curves into a cul-de-sac, every lawn is trimmed just right, and every house seems copy-pasted from a template. It's clean, it's orderly, it's affordable. But it's also sterile. You could fall asleep in one house and wake up in another without even noticing the difference. Of course, it's not just Texas. Cities like Las Vegas and Phoenix have embraced this same blueprint. Developers love it. It's fast, it's cheap, it works. But what's lost is any sense of individuality. These places might offer safety and quiet, but they also blur into a kind of architectural monotony that makes it hard to feel inspired or even oriented. And if you think that's extreme, wait until you see Al Sheba 3 in Dubai. A neighborhood so uniform, residents have literally gotten lost trying to find their own home. Street after street of identical villas stretch to the horizon. No landmarks, no personality, just symmetry. It's like someone opened a city-building game and spammed the same tile over and over. Inside, the homes are modern, functional, even luxurious. But outside, it's a maze with no flavor. Then there's Tianducheng, China's famous replica of Paris. Yes, it has its own Eiffel Tower. Built with the dream of attracting wealthy residents, the city stood nearly empty for years, an eerily quiet version of a place that was never real to begin with. Today, people have started moving in, and it's slowly finding its identity. But for a long time, it was just another ghost of urban ambition, a city chasing someone else's soul instead of finding its own. These examples aren't just about strange design. They're about how cities choose to grow. Uniformity might bring efficiency, but when everyone lives in the same box, it's easy to start feeling like one too. Sometimes the dream of a perfect city doesn't just fail, it crumbles before anyone even moves in. Take Burj Al Babas in Turkey. Developers had a bold vision, a luxury community of over 700 mini-castles nestled in the mountains. Each one styled like a European chateau with marble interiors, indoor pools, and a massive shopping complex to tie it all together. But the money dried up before the dream could become reality. Today, these identical castles sit empty. No lights, no people, just rows of unfinished grandeur slowly being reclaimed by time and weather. A ghost town that looks like Disneyland abandoned its royalty. Not far from Shenyang, China, another bizarre scene plays out. A group of ultra-luxury mansions was built for China's wealthy elite, but no one came. Financial troubles, bad timing, maybe a bit of both. So instead of being bulldozed, the area was quietly taken over by farmers. That's right. Crops now grow where manicured lawns were supposed to be. Vegetable patches stretch across cracked driveways. It's like the land itself rejected the idea of exclusivity and chose to be useful instead. And then there's Vorkuta, in the Russian Arctic, once a booming coal mining town, now mostly abandoned. The coldest city in Europe where temperatures drop below -50 degrees. Built during the Soviet era with forced labor, the place was never really designed for comfort. Today, it's a frozen graveyard of ice-covered buildings and broken infrastructure. A few families still live there, clinging on. But most of it? Quiet, eerie, and slowly collapsing under the weight of history and snow. These aren't just failed construction projects. They're stories of misplaced ambition, of trying to build paradise without checking if anyone wants to live there. They remind us that a city needs more than bricks and blueprints. It needs people, purpose, and something real to hold it all together. Now let's talk about the weird ones. The buildings that make you stop and wonder if someone hit copy-paste on the blueprint without reading it. In Moscow, there's a building that doesn't rise into the sky. It stretches across the ground like a sleeping giant. Nicknamed the Lying Skyscraper, it runs for over 700 meters, nearly the length of 7 football fields. From the outside, it looks like a never-ending wall of windows. Inside, endless corridors, repetitive layouts, and a layout so disorienting that even locals say it feels like walking through a dream you're trying to wake up from. Then there's the Loy Hotel in Thailand, a 5-star accommodation that looks like a visual glitch. The way the balconies and windows are arranged, it plays tricks on your eyes, like staring at one of those magic eye puzzles from the 90s. From some angles, it looks like it's collapsing in on itself. From others, perfectly normal. Tourists come just to stand in front of it and feel confused. And yes, it's fully operational despite looking like a video game bug. But maybe the strangest of all is Al Khobar, Saudi Arabia, where the city tried to bring greenery to the desert by installing fake trees. Not metal sculptures, not art pieces, plastic trees planted into sidewalks, standing upright like toy props from a movie set. City planners said it was a practical decision. Real trees don't do well with water scarcity. Fair enough. But critics weren't impressed. After all, shade's one thing. But plastic doesn't clean the air, it doesn't grow. And it definitely doesn't feel like nature. These places aren't just architectural quirks. They're reflections of deeper questions about how we prioritize design, what we consider livable, and how much humanity we're willing to sacrifice for style or convenience. So, what do all these places have in common? From diamond mines in Siberia to plastic trees in Saudi Arabia, from ghost towns of mansions to megacities stacked like Lego bricks, they each tell a story about the choices we make when we build cities. Some of those choices are driven by ambition, others by desperation. But often they're made without asking the most important question: what does it actually feel like to live here? Cities are more than buildings and infrastructure. They're ecosystems of people, workers, families, dreamers, kids playing in alleyways, neighbors who barely speak, old men watching traffic from balconies. When planning fails to consider them, it doesn't matter how shiny the skyline looks. The cracks start to show. In the traffic, in the pollution, in the loneliness of a uniform neighborhood. in the noise that never stops, in the silence of a place no one wanted to live in. And yet, in even the harshest places, the favelas, the slums, the brutalist towers, people find ways to live, to adapt, to survive. A picnic next to a smokestack, a basketball game in the shadow of a power plant, a mural on a crumbling wall. These moments remind us that while cities can fail, people are remarkably good at making the best of what's left. The real question isn't whether cities are good or bad. It's whether they serve the people who live in them. Are they designed for human needs or just human numbers? Because the truth is, urban hell isn't built overnight. It's built over years of ignoring the basics. And if we're going to fix that, it starts with paying attention. Not just to skylines, but to sidewalks. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey eye-opening, stick around. We've got more stories coming that peel back the glossy surface of city life and ask what lies underneath.